From Maury Terry's book, The Ultimate Evil, The Search for the Sons of Sam. Satanic cults lurk in various guises, and their recruitment techniques also differ. Some harvest through pseudo-legitimate counseling or self-awareness groups, actually fronts, which frequently flourish around campuses or military bases or in major cities. An unsuspecting youth, already poised of a mindset ripe for manipulation, will enroll for a series of courses, seminars, or therapy sessions allegedly intended to put his or her life into focus. What follows is a period of careful screening and weeding out. In time, the chosen few find themselves drawn deeper and deeper into a web of deceit, rejection of traditional values, and conversion of the twisted belief of the group's leader. On its outset, the Process was one of these groups. The Process Church of the Final Judgment was born in London, England in 1963 and 64. The Damien child of two ranking members of the Church of Scientology who split with the parent organization following some philosophical differences with the teachings of L. Ron Hubbard, the developer of Scientology. The founding couple of the Process, Robert Moore and Mary Ann McLean, had met while receiving advanced training at the Hubbard Institute of Scientology on London's Fitzroy Street. Divorcing Hubbard, they married one another and adopted the cult name of de Grimston for themselves. On their own and with their new cult names, the de Grimstons began to experiment with sophisticated mind control games. They started a center to study what they termed compulsion analysis for research into and elimination of compulsive behavior. They preached a doctrine of free choice, declaring that individuals were completely responsible for their own fates, actions, and afflictions. The gods they worshipped were two in number, Jehovah and Lucifer. Not surprisingly, the fledgling Process attracted a following. Young, searching, and disturbed men and women were drawn to the group like metal to a magnet. The de Grimstons also actively recruited, particularly from the ranks of the young and the wealthy. The recruits served two purposes. First, they would be tapped for sizable donations that would allow for the cult to expand and its leaders to maintain an appropriate lifestyle. Second, wealthy converts often held top jobs or had important connections, enabling the cult to gain entry into powerful businesses, entertainment, government, and financial circles, laying the foundation for an influential cultic old boy network. The Process, not surprisingly, was fond of the color black. They wore black capes, some with the Mendez goat of Satan stitched in red on the back. Underneath, they donned black robes or suits and turtlenecks and adorned their necks with silver crosses. In the terms of inner ranking, there were 6 levels of membership in the group, which borrowed from the family structure of its inspiration. In fact, the Process referred to itself as the family, as Manson did with his group. It is yet another interesting link between Manson and the Process, and there are many more. For instance, cult names were substituted for legal names. Once initiated, reached a certain level of the Process indoctrination. This was another practice Manson utilized for many in his family. The lowest level of the Process was that of the acolyte, followed by the initiate and the messenger, the rank at which the recruit acquired his or her cult name, such as Brother Tom, Sister Rebecca, or Father Jonas. From the rank of messenger, the aspiring cultist graduated to prophet, priest, and ultimately master. At one point in the journey, all members, regardless of their chosen god, were required to enter long periods of satanic worship, which reportedly included rituals and sacrifice. And as many of you know who have been studying the Son of Sam case for a while, the Process Church, it is heavily speculated, allegedly, that the Process Church had a lot to do with Son of Sam. And before we get to our episode today, just a quick thank you to all of our patrons and our producers. If you would like to join our Patreon or our producer community and help support the work done here on Esoteric Atlanta, there is a link down in the description box below. This channel is solely crowd-funded through our amazing patrons and our producers and our sponsors. So you guys mean the world to us. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Thank you for giving me about a little bit over a week break. We took a little bit of a break just to help the channel and all the confinement that we have on YouTube, especially when we're covering cases like the case that we're going to talk about today. So I appreciate you guys being patient. So we're going to be today, we're going to be circling back again to the ongoing Son of Sam case that we've spoken about a lot on this channel. I picked it up from my late friend, Doug Kramer, who was a Scientologist, who did his own research into the Son of Sam, Charles Manson, L. Ron Hubbard, the three-letter agency here in the United States, mind control, all that kind of stuff. Like, he was really interested in connecting all the dots with all these different types of organizations and all these different types of big events that happened here, especially in the United States. And that's how I adopted this Son of Sam case. And before I picked this up from Doug, I personally was not super interested in this case. I was born in 1983. So I was born, this case was officially wrapped up by the official NYPD narrative, which we're going to get into, in 1977. I was born in 1983. So this happened before I was born. And I do remember hearing stories about it as a child. There was a movie that came out in like the 90s that went over the vibe of New York City during this time. But I just I knew that David Berkowitz, I knew he was the Son of Sam, and I had heard something about like a dog. He believed a possessed dog like told him to do it. And that's just kind of where I left it. And then when I started looking through my late friend Doug Kramer's research, I realized there was way more to the story. And especially sitting here in 2025, where we're definitely at a time, I think most people can agree, where the Matrix is crumbling. We're realizing that those who are quote unquote experts on things are bought and sold, and narratives are spun. We see that with like the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. I mean, there's a lot that we need to unpack as a society because we've been lied to about a lot of stuff. And we know that there's corruption at the highest levels of our government, of our governments all over the world, of our politicians, and there's a lot of blackmail that goes on. And in order for there to be blackmail, there has to be pretty sadistic stuff happening. And so all of this starts to unfold. Like, the more that you study what's really going on, the more you realize like how dark this is. And I've said many times before that I know David Berkowitz, he did wrong. He was a part of this. He did do some of the pew-pewings, and therefore he does need to serve his time. But personally, I have a lot of empathy for him because I do think he was a Manchurian candidate. And I do think the real culprits were never persecuted. And I think that the NYPD has a lot of explaining to do. And I want to say that before we get into this too, because two things can be true. I say that a lot on this channel. Two things can absolutely be true. There are absolutely wonderful police officers out there. Absolutely. I probably would guess that the mass majority of police officers around the world are good people who want to do the right thing. But unfortunately, when we're looking at government organizations, not just the NYPD, but all over the world, a few bad apples can spoil the whole bunch. And unfortunately, the fish stinks from the head down in a lot of these cases. And we're going to get more into the NYPD as we get further into this discussion. But before we do get into this discussion, because this is such a big conversation, I wanted just to give a little bit of a breakdown into Maury Terry's theory on David Berkowitz and Son of Sam. So Maury Terry, as I've just mentioned, wrote a book called The Ultimate Evil. I've read this book twice now. It's a pretty thick book. And it's fascinating. It's very fascinating. I absolutely suggest people getting The Ultimate Evil, although we'll have Mike explain this further down the line about trying to find an original copy, because the copy that I have allegedly has been altered, allegedly. Maury Terry is no longer with us. He did pass away in 2015. But Netflix did do a docuseries based on Maury Terry's research, so if you want a Cliff Notes version, you can always look for The Ultimate Evil, the search for the Sons of Sam over on Netflix. But just a brief synopsis. So again, I read The Ultimate Evil after 2020. I'm using 2020 as that marker because 2020 was a big year for most of us, right? It was a worldly event year. And that's when a lot of us started going, wait a minute, wait a minute. We knew things weren't quite right, but when 2020 happened, we knew for sure that there was an illusion, there was a matrix, and the matrix was starting to crumble. It's funny, when I was a kid, they used to tell us that TV rots your brain. And I think we forgot that TV rots your brain, especially with 24-hour news cycles, and we're starting to see where narratives are spun. Well, I've read The Ultimate Evil twice now, and the thing that really stood out to me, lots of things actually stood out to me in The Ultimate Evil, but one thing that stood out to me about Maury Terry's story is that Maury Terry mentions in the beginning of The Ultimate Evil that he was working a story, when he was a young journalist, having to do with the race riots that were happening long before Son of Sam. And he had covered one of the riots, and he turned it into one of his editors, and the story got completely changed. And he mentions this, and I don't know if other people picked up on this like I did, like people who read The Ultimate Evil back in the 80s or the 90s or the early 2000s, if they picked up on that like I did, and maybe like you did, because we know now that the media, the news, is nothing but entertainment, and news channels are bought and sold, and they're nothing but propaganda. Like, we know that now, right? Like, I don't take the news seriously at all. I think we need TV rots your brain. And I think we have to be diligent about doing our own research. Really, in my opinion, there's no such thing as an expert anymore, because experts can be bought and sold, right? Doctors can, archaeologists can, scientists can. News anchors can be bought, politicians. And so it is our due diligence as people, as sovereign people, to always do our own research. And so I applaud Maury Terry for mentioning that there was obviously corruption in the media as far back as the race riots. So anyway, when Son of Sam was going on in 1976, 1977, Maury Terry is a New York resident. And he's noticing that things are not, the math ain't mathin' in some of these stories. When they caught Berkowitz, and Berkowitz confessed to everything, the math wasn't mathing, he starts to really investigate. And then one of the interesting things about The Ultimate Evil is that Maury Terry, for most of the book, really kind of doesn't want to accept that there is a satanic cult. It's like, even with all the evidence sitting in front of him, he finally has no choice but to accept it. So he was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, you got to be kidding me. This can't be happening. But when the evidence is irrefutable, the evidence is irrefutable. Now, of course, with a lot of us now know about these particular cults, the last few years, especially dealing with that little island down in the Caribbean, along with that list that they claim is an urban legend now. We know about Hollywood. We know that I think you would have to be real dumb, real low IQ, or living in total oblivion at this point not to understand what's going on in the world, what's really happening in our world. And so I'll leave it at that because we are on YouTube. So we'll get more into that in the full breakdown of this. But I just wanted to go ahead. Let me just give you like an outline before we get into this conversation, so you kind of know where we're coming from. All right, you guys. Of course, our sponsor for this episode today is Fusion Body Studio. So you are being sponsored today. This episode is being sponsored today by myself. As many of you guys know, outside of YouTube, I am a KPJAY authorized teacher. I have spent many, many, many years in India studying traditional yoga and how the mind, the body, and the spirit all work together in this human existence. And so I've taken everything that I have spent my adult life learning, and I have put it all together. I've fused it all together into an online platform with my friend Paula over in Australia. So Fusion Body Studios is really just your online fitness boutique. It's a way for you to get in shape while also learning the value of exercise beyond just the physical. So we talk not only about what's happening with working out and refining the muscles, but also what different muscles, what different areas of the body are going to trigger different mental stimulants as well as cleaning out trauma and reinvesting yourself into your life and dealing with the things in your life that are holding you back. So this is our library of exercise videos. And again, you're doing this in the privacy on in your own home. So you don't have anybody watching you. It's just you. We've got the bar fusion classes, which are my favorite, that combined bar, which is from ballet. It combines bar, martial arts, Pilates, yoga, all dance, all sorts of stuff. So we have that up. We also have strength training classes, which involve a lot of weights. And we have Ashtanga yoga classes for beginners, which is the traditional form of yoga, but it's just for beginners because if you are interested in traditional yoga, I would highly suggest finding an in-person teacher, which I can help you with that if that is something that you like. We have axis strength training classes, which the axis is your spine. So that is what we're working with in these particular classes. Cardio dance classes, which are some of my favorite. A lot of these cardio dance classes can be done with your kids as well. Vinyasa flow classes, flush and restore classes, live classes that you get one live class with me every month and they get uploaded to our platform. Classes with Cindy, she's got more classes coming too. Walking workouts, somatic healing exercises, which somatic, soma means body, so body healing exercises, as well as post-workout meditations for some of our students who prefer to go on runs or long walks or cycling. After they're done with their workout, they can come and do a post-workout meditation because of the integration part of your exercise experience. And that's one thing that we strive to do here on Fusion Body Studio is that my whole shtick, my whole thing is that a teacher's job, my job as a teacher is to eventually teach myself out of a job. My passion in Fusion Body Studio is to give everybody the information they need to live a healthy and productive life, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually as well. So we teach our students in this studio how to approach working out from the best way possible. The initiation of workout, which is the warm up, through the workout to the very important integration of workout, which a lot of people skip. The integration part at the end, which is the cool down and the letting the body to restabilize itself. But that's vitally important for your nervous system, for your cortisol levels, and also for your mental stress in order to have that integration. So again, that's why we have the post meditation post-workout meditations available for you. That's why it's important for us to have these available for you so that if you do choose to go for a run or something, you have something to help you integrate that run after you're done. We also have a section called of workshops. We have all these different in-depth workshops. We have an in-depth Ashtanga yoga course, healing for ascension for body, healing for ascension for mind, healing for ascension for spirit, health, healing, and beyond, which looks at the teachings of the late great Krishnamacharya, Heart of Yoga, which looks at the teachings of the late great Desikachar. We also talk a lot about the Bhagavad Gita, which is probably one of the most inspirational books that I've ever read that really helped me to understand misconceptions in the spiritual world and what it really means to be a human. Polishing the Mirror, which goes over a lot of the teachings of the late Ram Dass, and the Alchemy of Movement, which is my specific course that I've created, which I teach you all about anaerobic work, aerobic work, what is good for what's happening physically in the body with different forms of exercise, what's happening with the mind in different forms of exercise, what's happening with your nervous system, your cortisol levels. And my whole point in this is that not all exercises were created equal. Every exercise has its value, but you need to understand what that exercise, the purpose of that exercise is in your physical body for you to make the best decisions for your overall health. Again, your overall health, physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health. And we just added last week, guys, we just added this Vedic chanting course. This is going to be a growing course. We're going to grow this course. This is with Todd Roderick. And we have definitely a lot of requests for this. So we're starting with some pretty basic chants, the Ashtanga opening chant, the Ashtanga closing chant, Sahana Vavatu, one of my favorite chants, the Surya Namaskar mantra, and we're going to keep growing with this with more in-depth Vedic chanting. And so that is up for you. Again, it's an ongoing library of chants for you to start to understand the power of Vedic chanting. That is in the workshops. Now, with this studio, we have 3 different tiers. So tier 1 is free. Everybody has access to tier one. It's where you get a lot of the astrological overviews from myself and Tamara monthly. There's a couple of videos, exercise videos up on the free tier. Anytime we release any shadow work challenges, we just released a 10-day shadow work challenge, which is totally free. That's on tier one. Tier two is the exercise membership that I just showed you. That's just the exercises, the 2 to 4 new workouts. You get a month plus one live workout with me a month, and that library just keeps growing and growing and growing, meaning that when we add new workouts, we don't ever take any away. So the library is just going to grow. And in fact, you guys, Wednesday of this week, this is the week of the 25th of August, 2025. Wednesday of this week, we are actually going to be filming an express strength training video with Todd Roderick. So we are slowly adding even more teachers. My goal is to only have master teachers on this platform to give you a well-rounded experience and give you as much knowledge as you can take for your own well-being. So that exercise tier two is $25 a month. And literally, I have never seen anything of value that cheap. And Paula and my goal is to keep it as cheap as possible because we're on the internet, we have unlimited seating. And so that's why we're able to offset the price as low as possible. So as many people can join who want to join, who really want to seek benefit from this experience. So that's $25 a month for unlimited exercise. If you want to experience the full studio, so tier one, which is the free stuff, tier two, which is the exercise library, and tier three, which is the workshops. So you get access to all the workshops on top of that. Then that is an extra 15 a month, which is 40 a month, which is still, I mean, what is it? Soul Cycle? I think one of their drop-ins for a 45-minute class for one class is $40. So that's still super cheap to get all the analytical stuff with the exercise stuff. But we did divide them up because we know some people aren't interested in the workshop. Some people just want the experience of working out. And so that's why we divided into two different payment tiers so that people who don't want to participate in the workshops, they don't have to pay as much. They can just pay 25 a month. And then of course, if you want to change your membership at any time, bump up to 40 or bump down to 25, that's also fine as well. We also have created a weight loss playlist because we know that weight loss is something that people are really, really interested in, obviously. And what Paula and I want to make sure our audience members, our students at the studio, we want to make sure that you guys are losing weight in the healthiest way possible. Neither Paula nor I believe in crash diets. We believe that weight loss should be slow and steady, and that you, as the participant in your own weight loss, should understand what's happening in your body. So we have created a full weight loss playlist with different exercises that actually trigger weight loss. Within that playlist, we also have an Ayurvedic food manual where we go through the different doshas, so the food system, to help people have a different understanding of what food is and what it means to nurture your body in a more natural sense. And honestly, you guys, in my experience in India, especially with Ayurvedic medicine and the dosha system, is that I find a lot of times when people just learn about the doshas and look at food through the lens of disposition and energy, the weight falls off naturally because they start eating foods that are good for them. And when your body is being fulfilled with its nutrients that it needs, all of a sudden your perspective of food changes and the weight will a lot of times just melt right off. So we want to be able to help you. This coming September 2025, we are also going to be hosting a live pop-up call separate from the calls that we typically do, where we can talk more about weight loss and answer people on the studio, answer your questions, and really try to help you and guide you in the best way to lose weight. So with that being said, guys, for the exercise alone is $25 a month. For the whole thing, it's $40 a month. But also, if you enter discount code BRICE20, BRICE 20, all caps, BRICE 20 at checkout, if you decide to be a part of our studio, then you get an additional 20% off your first 6 months of tuition with us at Fusion Body Studio. I know that our prices are so cheap that some people use Fusion Body Studio as like a secondary exercise platform. Like a lot of our students are also members of gyms or yoga studios, and they have Fusion Body Studio because it's so cheap. Why not, right? They have it at home for days that they they can't get to the gym or they can't get to their yoga studio, or days where they don't want to leave their house. They just want to have the day to themselves. They can just pop on and exercise at Fusion Body Studio and be done with it. Also for travel, people who travel a lot, you don't have to worry about finding a gym or finding a yoga studio because you have a gym right on your cell phone that you can do anywhere in the world. And so we love those guys. We love all of our students. We have such a great student body. We're really so happy with all the people. We've had such amazing students on the studio so far. We'd love to have you join us. So again, if you use Brice20 at checkout, you get 20% off your first 6 months at Fusion Body Studio. On top of that, anytime you register with us at Fusion Body Studio, you get 7 days for free. So before your credit card is charged, before your debit card is charged, you get seven full days, a full week for free. So you can spend those 7 days experimenting with the studio, seeing how you like it. And after the 7 days are up, if you decide that Fusion Body Studio is not for you, you can just cancel your membership, no problem, and your card will not be charged. So it's really a win-win situation. Again, we would love to have you. Every month we have special guests. Sometimes I do the live calls, but sometimes we have special guests come on and do the live calls. We've had Cindy Ola come on and do a live call with somatic healing. In the month of August, we had my friend Tamara came on this past Saturday and did a live call with our students. This September, we're looking at another guest caller. We know Todd's going to be doing some calls. So you get so much bang for your buck. And so we really hope to see you over on Fusion Body Studio. All of those links, along with your discount code, are down in the description box below. So here is the breakdown of the cult theory side of the Son of Sam story as presented by Maury Terry. So first, the official story. 1, David Berkowitz was arrested in August of 1977 after a massive NYPD investigation. 2, he confessed to all the pew-pewings and claimed that he was commanded to unalive people by a demon that spoke through his neighbor, Sam's dog. 3, because he confessed, he took a plea deal. He got sentenced to 6 life terms in prison. So now let's talk about Maury Terry's cult theory. The late Maury Terry was a journalist who covered the case extensively, and he believed that Berkowitz didn't act alone. His claims were that there were multiple pew-pewers. Witnesses gave varying descriptions of the unaliver that didn't always match Berkowitz. There were occult connections. Terry found links between Berkowitz and a group in Yonkers said to be involved in satanic rituals. There were unaliving rituals. He theorized the unalivings were part of occult sacrifices rather than random pew-pewings. And another point was national networks. Terry argued that Berkowitz was tied to a broader web of satanic cults across the USA, linking Son of Sam cases to other unsolved unalivings. As I said, my friend Doug had also had information linking it to Charles Manson. There was an unaliving in Northern California that Berkowitz knew a little bit about. All sorts of stuff that connect with this is a huge web, It's unbelievable. The Son of Sam case, from my opinion, looking at Maury Terry's research, involves pretty much the highest of high government officials, including Hollywood. So Berkowitz later statements in prison, Berkowitz at times admitted that others were involved, though he never provided a complete verifiable account. And he also alternated between confirming and denying Terry's theory, which kept the conspiracy alive. I have my thoughts on that. Again, these are very powerful people that David was associated with, in my opinion. This is also covered in the book Dead Names. I just turned around to see if I still had it, but I lent it to a friend, which Dead Names was, that book was recommended to me by RockerMike. It's about the Necronomicon, which we have covered on this channel before. I'll link that down in the description box below if you missed the Necronomicon discussions. And this guy, Simon, that's his pen name, goes into great detail in the beginning of this book about what was happening in the 1970s in New York City and the occult scene. Really great detail. And he also talks about this particular group, the satanic group that Berkowitz was a part of. But the book isn't about Son of Sam. It's literally about this Necronomicon finding this old spell book that he helps to translate. But Berkowitz and Berkowitz groups are mentioned in passing about these different satanic groups that were in New York City at that time. So this wasn't just something Maury Terry had discovered. There were other people who were very knowledgeable about, like, this was just common knowledge, right? And so this isn't, Maury Terry wasn't just pulling this out of thin air. This was a literal, people knew about this. But we also had in the 1980s, which I think was a detriment to Maury Terry's case, was the Satanic Panic. Part of me feels like the Satanic Panic was a psyop. I kind of feel like this was the beginning of people starting to figure things out, just briefly starting to. And so I feel like they had to start this like Satanic Panic stuff to kind of dissuade people and make people feel like these conspiracies of satanic groups were just conspiracies. So you think about like the Memphis 3, which they were totally guilty, but we have all of this big propaganda now from Hollywood especially to like claim their innocence when they're absolutely guilty. So it's wild, right? It's wild. So what is the Satanic Panic? In the 1980s, the USA was gripped by fears of satanic cults infiltrating society, daycare centers, suburbs, churches. Terry's theories fed into it and were amplified by the Satanic Panic movement. Some saw him as a truth teller uncovering hidden networks. Others saw him as a journalist consumed by obsession and paranoia. I do think that last bit, two things can be true. I do think that he became very obsessed with his case towards the end of his life. However, if you've ever been gaslit and been told that you're crazy or that you're lying and you know you're telling the truth, I don't blame him for being obsessed with it. Like, I get it. I totally get it. So the docuseries doesn't fully endorse Terry's theory, but shows how compelling it became. The documentary portrays Terry, that this is the Son of Sam's, the Ultimate Evil documentary, portrays Terry as a man who sacrificed his career and personal life chasing this theory. And it leaves viewers with an open question. Was Berkowitz truly a lone wolf, or was there more to the story? And I think for me, at the end of the Sons of Sam docuseries, they give you all of this evidence to prove that there was a cult, but then at the end they're like, oh, but it's crazy, there was never a cult. So, but I think, from my experience being in the Son of Sam community now, I feel like most people know that there absolutely was a cult involved. I think you would have to be you would either have to be paid opposition, like paid, a controlled opposition, or paid by this group or a part of this bigger wide web to continue to put out the narrative that it was just Berkowitz and he was just some crazed guy. Or you have to be pretty low IQ to actually believe that Berkowitz was the only person. And I say that in all sincerity because, this is when you have irrefutable evidence, then, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a effing duck, right? We know the Process Church was involved, which is an offshoot of Scientology. It goes deep, 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 deep. So we recently had another docuseries that was released to Netflix, and this is Conversations with an Unaliver, the Son of Sam tapes. So the Son of Sam tapes on Netflix is a true crime documentary series that explores the infamous case of the Son of Sam, a serial unaliver who terrorized New York City in the late 1970s. The series delves into the investigation and the media frenzy surrounding the case, offering insight into the police work and the public reaction during that period. It is a comprehensive look at how the events unfolded and the cultural impact of the unalivers' action. All right, so Netflix does have the Ultimate Evil docuseries, and now they have Conversations with an Unaliver, the Son of Sam tapes. And honestly, this docuseries the latest one about with the tapes, is probably one of the lowest rated Netflix shows. It's incredibly bad. It's boring. It's ridiculous. It's infuriating. It's literally like, do you think we're idiots? In this docuseries, they are really going off the NYPD's narrative. And they interview a lot of the task force that's still alive that was a part of that. And what drove me crazy is they don't even really, like Carl Denaro, who I've had on my channel before, who was one of the surviving victims of the Son of Sam. They have him on there like really just like the first episode for like 2 minutes. It's wild because I know that Carl does not believe, as one of the victims, does not believe that Berkowitz was the lone person. In fact, many of the surviving victims and many of the victims' family members agreed with Maury Terry. They absolutely believed that there was a cult behind their loved one's demise or their own suffering through this, because it made sense. So for me, the fact that Netflix is going to even continue to peddle this bullshit story, this propaganda, this narrative created by the NYPD, which is one of the most corrupt police organizations in the United States, is incredibly disrespectful to the victims. It's unbelievably jarring. You know, they kind of are basically telling you in this docuseries, in my opinion, you have to believe us because we're the experts. But again, the NYPD is known for their corruption. Like, they're known, especially during this time. For example, let's look at some of their corruption. So just a quick overview. In the 1970s, the New York City Police Department was plagued by widespread systematic corruption, including rampant bribery, protecting rackets, and consorting with criminals. There were multiple investigations, multiple whistleblowers into the NYPD during the 1970s. So during this time, we also have the Knapp Commission, the Commission to investigate, alleged police corruption, known informally as the Knapp Commission, was a 5-member panel formed in May of 1970 by Mayor John V. Lindsay to investigate corruption and misconduct within the New York City Police Department. The creation of the commission was largely a result of publicized accounts of police wrongdoing, as revealed by Patrolman Frank Serpico, I hope I'm saying his name right, and Sergeant David Dirk. Lindsay's actions was also prompted by a front page expose in the New York Times on April 25th of 1970 that documented a vast scheme of illicit payments to police officers from businessmen, gamblers, and narcotics dealers. In its final report, the commission concluded that the NYPD had widespread corruption problems and tried to make a series of recommendations. Okay, so this was on the eve that this commission was formed of Son of Sam. So now let's look at the 1980s, because this crosses 70s into the 80s. All right, the NYPD experienced significant corruption in the 1980s, exemplified by the Buddy Boys case, where officers stole money and rugs and engaged in extortion. This era followed the Knapp Commission of the 1970s, which uncovered widespread graft, and subsequent Mullen Commission of the 1990s. So now we're getting to the 1990s, found that the NYPD had not learned from past cycles of corruption and was not sufficiently vigilant against it. So, even though we do know that there are good police officers out there, as a whole, we have evidence of major police corruption during the time of Son of Sam. Now, I personally have gotten emails from people in my community here who are from New York City, who had fathers who work for the NYPD, uncles, grandfathers during this time. They have sent me private emails, I'm not going to say their names, that their family members have always said that they knew that Maury Terry was right. That many of the little guys in the police department knew that there was a satanic cult, that there was no possible way that these unalivings could be done by one person. So I'm saying that just to honor those people, that this corruption in the NYPD, again, the fish stinks from the head down. And of course, a lot of times the media is in bed, they're bedfellows, with different government organizations. And so my big question is, who in the police force is a part of this cult too? The same cult that David Berkowitz was a part of. Who in the police force is part of this? Who in the government is a part of this too? We know Hollywood's involved. There's also a lot of suspicion around Sam Carr, which is the dog that Berkowitz claimed that Sam's dog was, his original story was that the dog was telling him what to do, blah, blah, blah. And in this docuseries, this latest one by Netflix, The Son of Sam Tapes, they kind of pass Sam Carr off as this just average Joe living in New York City, this average Joe that's just living his life. He's a good, outstanding citizen with these kids, blah, blah, blah. Well, we know that that's a load of shit. We know Sam had problems. We absolutely know that there were many problems in the Carr house. And when we look at the letters left by the son of Sam, it definitely points to John, allegedly John, one of his sons, and perhaps Michael, one of his sons, as actually being one of the co-conspirators, one of the pew-pewers in this case. Now, Sam Carr also had a daughter. I won't say her name because she is still alive, and this is all alleged. But even in Carl Denaro's case, it looks like he was pew-pewed by a female. Now, the daughter played a big role in getting David Berkowitz arrested because she was working in some part of, from what I understand, from what I remember from the Ultimate Evil book, she was working as dispatch. So I think she was able to plant that seed to get Berkowitz to be the fall guy. And we know that Berkowitz kind of wanted to be the fall guy. He wanted to get out of this. And he didn't want to be involved in this anymore, right? We know that he was looking forward to being caught. Now, as far as him flip-flopping back and forth from his prison cell about whether there was a cult involved or not, that is absolutely understandable to me. I think what people don't understand, and I've been working now for 5 years researching this stuff. I've met whistleblowers. I've met people who grew up in these particular religions, we'll say. These are very dangerous people. Very dangerous. Look what happened to Jeffrey E., who did not unalive himself, right? This goes high up within our government. And so I think for Berkowitz, not giving names, maybe playing a little bit into the narrative at times was for self-preservation and also to protect his family on the outside. Yeah? And so I just wanted to put that out there that I think what Berkowitz does is to protect himself, and I don't blame him. I can't imagine. I mean, the stuff that I've dealt with on this channel just for, sharing the truth that I share has been crazy. I can't imagine someone like him. And so basically with this docuseries, The Son of Sam Tapes, they really rip Berkowitz apart. They make him sound like he's just this crazed loser and that he's doing all this stuff. And they really encourage you to believe the NYPD narrative, which is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. We weren't born yesterday, NYPD. We know you're corrupt. We have the evidence of your corruption. So you're asking us to believe known liars? Because when you're that corrupt, that's what you're asking. You're asking us to believe liars, is what you're asking us to believe. And that's not going to fly anymore. I hate to break it to the NYPD, but that's not going to fly anymore because people are wising up. People are smart now. And I don't think that they've figured that out yet, that the same shenanigans they pulled in the 1970s isn't going to work in 2025. People have access to information. There's a large majority of people, majority of the world knows what's going on with these groups. And so we have safety in numbers. But then we also get to another part of this case. And this is probably the most infuriating part of this new case. And that's the Wendy Savino element of this case. We've talked about this. There is a podcaster out there named Manny Grossman. He is in the Netflix series. It's hysterical. Manny is definitely a troll. He likes to come in and abuse people who oppose him. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, it's funny because Manny talks about David Berkowitz being a narcissist. But in my opinion, I'm not a doctor, but just from what I have seen in my own experience with Manny Grossman actually hits all the markers of being a narcissist. So that's kind of funny. And I noticed Manny right away because here on this channel, Esoteric Atlanta, we cover so many stories here. We cover so many stories. I do my own research, as you guys know. I have done my own research. I also bring other researchers on. Son of Sam is not really my case. I've researched it to be able to have these conversations with people on behalf of my late friend Doug, but I always bring on RockerMike and Chris and others on to talk about this case. Mike has the Son of Sam Chronicles. Chris journals about this. She does a lot of deep research into the occult element. Her blog will be down in the description box below for you to read up on it, right? I know what I believe from my own research, but the details, Mike and Chris are going to be able to give way more details, right? And so for Manny to troll my channel is actually quite comical because I'm not a Son of Sam channel. I'm an everything channel. But it's definitely apparent, his brutality. Manny allegedly, I don't even know if I have to say allegedly, he has doxed people, which for those who don't know, doxing is actually a felony in a lot of states. If you were to put out information about a person that they haven't publicly released. So like for me, Brice is my legal name. You guys know what I look like, even though this is a podcast right now. Usually I have my face on the camera. So saying my name and showing my picture isn't doxing me because I have put that out myself. But if someone were to put out my address, now you guys know I live in Atlanta, obviously Esoteric Atlanta, but if someone were to actually put out my physical address, that would be considered doxing. And that is a felony because you do that for harm, right? If someone were to release my phone number, my private phone number publicly, that would be considered doxing. And we know that Manny has done that. He's done it to Chris. Chris keeps her identity. She never shows her face and she keeps her identity private because of her job outside of her blog and doing these shows. There's a reason why people choose to keep their identity private. And in my opinion, as someone on YouTube, I find that really important that we honor that. People have their reasons for why they like to say anonymous, and I'm going to respect that as a human being because that's a boundary. We know Manny has doxed people. We know that I personally believe, in my personal opinion, that he is being paid by opposition. We know he has unrealistic connections to the NYPD, that it appears allegedly that the NYPD shares information with him and back and forth because there are different FOIAs that we can't get, but it's very strange. It's very sus. It's sketchy. It's very sketchy, his relationship with the NYPD. And again, I've been working in this world long enough, this world of conspiracy and cults and with whistleblowers to see a red flag when I see one. And he's a red flag. I definitely think he is being allegedly, from what I've heard, this is just hearsay, his father, there was a lot of corruption around his father, all that kind of stuff. So Manny has tried to pin another pew-pewing that happened before Donna Laurie, the original one, which was Wendy Savino. And we've talked about Wendy Savino a lot. It's very obvious that Berkowitz did not pew-pew Wendy Savino. Like, it's obvious he didn't. The evidence, it's like saying that the sky is really green when it's blue. Like, what they're trying to do with Wendy Savino is convince you that the sky is green or that the sky is red, right? It's not. It's blue. The evidence is there. We know that Wendy's husband was sketchy. She calls him in the docuseries a politician. Yeah, okay, Toots, whatever you want to call him. There's mafia connections here. absolute mafia connections here, and it's pretty obvious that her pew-pewing had to do with that, with her husband. It's obvious. It's not rocket science. It's common sense. The sketch that they say looks identical to Berkowitz looks absolutely nothing like Berkowitz. Nothing like Berkowitz at all. Okay? We also hear in this docuseries that Wendy is adding more to her story. Now, there's other evidence to support the fact that Wendy herself is a pathological liar. We've given Wendy a lot of grace in the past. We've given her a lot of grace. She is a victim of a heinous crime, all that kind of stuff. But at this point, two things can be true, right? She could be a victim of a heinous crime, and that's terrible, that's awful. And she can also be a pathological liar. And there's other stuff in the background that indicates she has lied to authorities before. I can't say much about that yet. Hopefully that will come out in the future, but she has lied to authorities before. And so it seems almost criminal that they have put this in. Berkowitz has denied, Wendy has denied her, that he doesn't know this woman. It's obvious. And then they start to basically gaslight. At the last episode, they gaslight Berkowitz. Or they're trying to gaslight us into believing Berkowitz did this. Because Berkowitz claims to be at this point a born-again Christian. I believe he is one. And he's always about doing the right thing and being honest. But they're saying, so if he's really a Christian, why won't he just tell the truth? Well, he is telling you the truth. Just because he's not telling you the truth that you want to hear doesn't mean that he's not telling the truth. He did not. It is obvious. It is obvious that Wendy Savino's crime is not part of Son of Sam. It's not. And I don't know who Wendy is trying to protect. If she's trying to protect her husband at the time and his shenanigans with the mafia, if she's trying to protect anything she could have been involved with when it comes, I don't know. I don't know why. I think Wendy very much knows that Berkowitz is not the person who pew-pewed her. And she's lying. She's lying. And the NYPD basically is telling Berkowitz they're adding his name to her case. They're really not doing any investigation into it. And that's just shows how corrupt the NYPD still is to this day. So if the NYPD, if anybody high up in the NYPD is watching this, nice try. We're not idiots. In my opinion, the Son of Sam tapes are it's one of the most low IQ. It was having to sit through the Son of Sam tapes to be able to do this episode was so painful for me. It was so unbelievably boring. It was literally written for special ed. It was not written for intelligent people. It was not written for intelligent people. It is the dumbest show on Netflix. And that's saying a lot because Netflix has released some pretty interesting, scandalous stuff in the past. But if you are a smart person, if your IQ is above 50, then this show is super boring. It's gotten terrible ratings because people know. People don't like being treated like they're idiots. We know that Berkowitz was not the lone shooter. To try to gaslight us and make us believe that we're crazy because the evidence, we see the evidence, it's manipulation and gaslighting. And there's going to be God, I just think some of these people I hope they enjoy hell when they get there. I hope they enjoy hell. Because to do this, to disrespect victims like this, to protect a satanic cult that's doing a lot of really bad things that I can't say on Netflix, that I can't say on YouTube, that's doing a lot of bad things we can't talk about here on this platform, but to protect them, that is some sinister stuff. And you have to be a full-on psychopath, sociopath, to be okay with that, to be okay with protecting this type of organization. And that's what the NYPD did. And again, I'm not saying the majority of the NYPD are good people who want the truth to come out. Trust me, I've gotten emails. But their bosses, their higher ups, that's where the buck stops. And so they're going to continue peddling this narrative because they believe the NYPD and Manny Grossman believe you're stupid. They believe you're stupid. And they believe that you can't critically think, and they still think the same old mind control tactics they've used in the past are going to continue now. And no, sir, they are not. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once Pandora's box is open, it's open. Once we know we can't go back to sleep, we see this for what it is. And in the end, they talk about how obviously it was Berkowitz, because after his arrest, there were no more pew-pewings. Yes, there were. Yes, there were. That's a straight up lie. That was a lie. I think it was Joseph Borelli who said that. Straight up lie. There absolutely were more pew-pewings after Berkowitz was arrested, which hopefully we will get into. So with that being said, guys, I wanted to give you that rundown here on YT, because we are going to be debunking this horrific, low IQ, stupid series. We're going to be giving our commentary on it. We're going to be showing where people have lied. We're going to be trying to stand up for the truth. And so if you want to join us for the full episode, you're going to have to follow over to my RUMBLE channel. So my channel over on RUMBLE. I can't say the name, but we're going to have the full conversation over there with Criminal Justice Chris and RockerMike. Hopefully, this was a great introduction for you guys. Hopefully this helps you get your head sorted around what we're going to be talking about. And if you want to pause it and go and watch the Netflix series, The Son of Sam Tapes first, and The Sons of Sam, The Ultimate Evil, both those series on Netflix first, before you listen to us have a conversation, then you can do that as well. But just know that is over on RUMBLE. That's where the full conversation is. That's where we can speak freely. We don't have to monitor our words. And we can also show some of the clips of the episode, which we do have right to. That's considered fair use. You can clip fair use, Section 108 of fair use law under the United States Constitution grants us content creators the ability to take copyrighted material like a Netflix series, like music, and use it for commentary, educational, entertainment purposes, which is what we're going to be doing. However, on YouTube, they try to strip us of that a lot. And so we're going to go over to the other channel on RUMBLE, so we don't have to worry about that, because RUMBLE does honor our constitutional rights with that. So with that being said, you guys, if you're sick of these lying POSs, join us over on RUMBLE. Same, I can't link it because of the platform, but it's the same title, same thumbnail, Esoteric Atlanta, same everything. And go check us out over there. We'll see you there, you guys. Can't wait to hear your thoughts and your opinions.